welcome to the slightly peculiar world of streamed crawl. Ooh, there has been an update. I'll just blindly accept the update. I'm sure it will be fine and won't completely break whatever it is that I was doing. Oh, good grief, yes, right, yes, well. Also stoked. So I'm back to playing one of every single possible species and background combination because I am on demigods. For those of you that don't know, demigods have a certain shtick, which is you can't worship a god. Now, since gods give you, apart from Zom, very substantial buffs in this game, playing a demigod is a bit tricky. They are meant to have things to compensate for this, but mostly I'm crap at playing crawl, and so I just die. So, you know, this is possibly not going to be one of the more long-lived characters that I've ever played. So I'm deciding how to train my skills. I'm going for a fairly generic start to this because I don't have any strong views. The important thing is that I should remember that I'm an artificer, which means I have wands to start with. Which means that if I run into anything scary, I should try and remember to... Ooh, Spirit Shield, brilliant. I should try and remember to use them. Spirit Shield means that, as well as taking off hit points, people hitting me will take my magic off instead, occasionally. So, provided I'm not using my magic to cast spells to kill them, this should be a massive improvement. Because it basically gives me free extra hit points. I'm using Claire's patented technique for fighting with bats. Squawk! They're stump bats, obviously. I think that might be a typo. A chunk of fleshard gecko corpse. Either that, or David's been getting silly again. I'm switching to a weapon that is a bit better for melee when you're a strong character, and I fully intend to turn myself from a fairly strong character into a very strong character fairly soon. Demigods, tricky. Demigods level up poorly because they have nap aptitudes at almost everything. So I might turn off Evo a bit in order to try and get my basic murdering stats up a bit. Basically, I am randomly reading scrolls at this point, on the grounds that this is the easiest way of finding out what they do. Unlike NetHack, this is not actually the world's most suicidal strategy. Occasionally you will waste a good item, but it's much less common, much less of a problem than NetHack. Right, well I've just found a bunch of good kit on Dungeon Level 1. I think this practically guarantees that I'm going to die embarrassingly pretty shortly. Probably from overconfidence. Maybe if I survive to dungeon level 2, I might actually manage to learn to hit something. Look, there's a weasel. This is one of the bits where Stoat Soup differs from the standard crawl. It was me just deciding to check my inventory just to check that I had in fact still got my short sword, because obviously thinking far enough ahead to think about the lair where I might need to have a non-edged weapon, which obviously the thing to do when you are on dungeon level 2 and experience level 2. Run away! Well, run and hide in the corridor. And take them on in single file. And off we go to hide in the cupboard again. And oh look, there's an altar to a god here. Fortunately the god is Zom, so I have no desire to worship him, so I'm not immensely frustrated right now. Give me a couple of L's and I will be. Hooray! Identify! Ooh, we have identified curing, that's good. And I've picked up the mace because in the unlikely event I make it to them there and I don't find a flaming edged weapon, I can use the cross-training skills to use my mace. Also at this point I have lots of free space in my inventory, so whatever. I'm deliberately avoiding ranged weapons on the grounds that I am planning to use my wands as my primary ranged things. Eventually, just as soon as I have any skill at all in murdering people. We'll wait in the cupboard for someone to sneak up to us. Right, let's take a strength upgrade. And the one great thing about demigods is that you get 2 strengths, 2 attribute increase points when you upgrade, not just 1. I am of course going for my usual kind of food strategy, which is eat chunks pretty much all the time, and I will slaughter everything for chunks. Just because that's easier than trying to work out whether I'm getting near the bottom of my chunks list without, checking my menu all the time. And let's just check that I've not been an inattentive stoat and missed a better axe than the one I'm carrying. The number of times I have done that is distressing. Now let's put on the ring. I do quite like that this is generally again much more doable than in NetHack, where putting on the wrong ring is it's a game-ending problem. Now I've got heal wounds. My problem here is that if I tend to have potions of heal wounds early on, I tend to play like a gibbon. A gibbon with no sense of self-preservation. I'm trying to be like David. Let's think about this. Let's zap it with a wand of random effects. It might turn it invisible or something terrible, but equally it might do something good like kill the ogre. Excellent. I'm not really strong enough to take on ogres yet. Let's drop the potentially glowing mace for the probably quite safe flail. Ooh, teleportation. After playing Formicids, which can't teleport, this feels like a bit of a treat. Ooh, a war axe. Right. And an ogre. Excuse me while I... Great. Let's go and hide in the cupboard. Let's have one of those potions of curing. Both of those potions of curing. And one of those potions of heal wounds. It's possible I should have run away at this point. I can't run away because the worker ant is fast. Damn it. And the ogre got me. Well. Yay. Demigod. Assassin. Well, this is going to be a slow and painful way to die, isn't it? I'm going to try and play this actually as an assassin, but I suspect this is not going to last long because I'm not that stealthy. I do find it interesting just how very different it is in character to NetHack. And even now how different it is in character to original Crawl. I say original Crawl, I mean current version of Dungeon Crawl Stone Soup. And see, I can't sneak up on anything really to speak of. I suppose I could try running away. I can't run very fast either. Oh, the kobolds are asleep. Damn it. Now they're neither of them asleep. Good. I'd just like to point out that my talent here is minimal. I survived dungeon level 1. Well, that's unusual. But it's more usual these days. Right. Can I... No, I can't sneak up on the gnoll. Probably can't run away from the gnoll either because it's got a polearm and so it can stick me again. Oops. Other than that. Hooray! Let's pick up the spirit throwing net and run away. Extra dex is apparently really useful for stabbing people, so I'm going for extra dex. So, you know what I should have done? I should have thrown a thing at that. Let's die to that gnoll instead. Hooray! Well, I got into double digits. That's what counts. Right. What? Did I accidentally manage to pick completely the wrong thing? I think I did. How in... Well, let's suicidally run around going, what the hell did I do? I don't know, I don't even, and see if I can get nibbled to death by an okapi. Because somewhere in there I pressed the wrong button. Right. Demigod. D. Assassin. No, I don't want D. Assassin, I want C. Hunter. Stoat. Right, okay, let's suicidally wander around the dungeon like this, because it's not like I liked playing this very much before. I mean, on dungeon level 1 it's quite hard to kill your demigod, but it's eminently possible if your dart slug can shoot straight. Right, let's try pressing the actual right goddamn buttons. Right, X, demigod. C, hunter. I'm gonna go for... Ooh, tricky. I might go for short bow and arrows. My usual personal preference is, unless the species has a massive apt one way or the other, is hand crossbow and bolts, because I just like the one-handed thing, and hand crossbows are, you know, really very powerful for one-handed weapons. But let's go with bow and arrow, because there are usually more arrows kicking around the dungeon, which is of course a bit of a problem for a demigod. You can't go with a god that will, you know, give them more stuff. So let's go for some stuff. Yeah. Ooh, a cloak. Ooh, a hobgoblin. Ooh, a kobold. Come on, kobold, die. It's not like I can really... Right, since you're in close, let's work on stabbing you to death instead. Very inefficiently. Also, look how safe it is to put on armour. Isn't it great? Oh dear. Let's pick up the dagger of venom, because it will be better to stab things with. Let's fire at that bat. Wield that dagger of venom, and then stick that dagger of venom into the slot where I can automatically switch between it and something useful. Of course, I am trying to play the traditional early game of can I conserve my arrows by stabbing some things without, and this is important, dying through being an inattentive gibbon? Spoiler, this usually ends through dying through being an inattentive gibbon. I'm not sure how my dagger of venom can begin to drip with poison. I assume this is mostly like, you know, artist shorthand for look how poisonous your dagger is. The good old NetHack technique of let's stand in a bloody corridor and take them one by one because it's easier that way. Right, regeneration, that's nice. Short sword, I don't really need it. Magic mapping, that's nice. Tricksy hobbitses. Now, Dex in theory increases your accuracy with ranged weapons. Strength, however, just is generally so good. If I had any spells, maybe Int would be tempting, but I think let's just go with more Stra. Can always do with more Stra. I'd also like to note that while in any other game you would be falling over arrows by the bushel at this point, the chances of seeing any arrows for like about 3 levels go down substantially because you're playing someone that actually wants to use them. The random number generator is still 100% as evil. Hooray! Right, we have... Ooh, arrows! Arrows! Okay, I maligned the random number generator, only slightly unfairly. Down's very nice. So... what have we got armour-wise? I'm just going to see, do we have a ring mail? We do not have a ring mail. Right, it's a worm. I am armoured only with leather. Let us not be suicidally stupid. Let's use the bow and arrows. I have died a lot to worms embarrassingly recently. I mean, obviously this is probably good for them in the, you know, all-time league table of monsters, but it's not very good for me. Still not quite sure what the difference between goblins and hobgoblins is, but I suppose I could look this up in the Crawl Wiki if I really cared. Wild bats aren't actually, you know, dangerous to most people. They are also incredibly annoying to hit in melee, especially when you have basically no aptitudes for melee. And I barely have an aptitude for using my bow after, you know, training it for all of my levels pretty extensively. Excuse me, I'm just going to go and hide around this corner and wait for people to come and get me. To the hiding in cupboards technique, patented by Crawl players since, I don't know, 1990 something probably. Yes, you'll probably have noticed by now that there is one really big difference between Crawl and NetHack, which is Identify does not necessarily identify everything, you just use Identify things as and when you come across them. So, AC plus EV is 18. Let us put on a ring mail. AC plus EV is 19. Right, that is an upgrade. Let us ditch the leather armour for some ring mail. It does impact my stealth, but I'm not actually that stealthy. So I'll pick up a dagger of speed just because they're generally useful, especially if you run into things that are poison resistant. Ooh, arrows. We like arrows. We also like bats that are stupid enough, stunt bats that are stupid enough to leap stoat first onto our dagger. I didn't bother trying to get into melee with that kobold because it had a short sword of draining, and that just seemed like a bad decision, really. You know, on those occasions when you do have ranged weapons, it's sensible to use them. Oh good, Sigmund has confused me. Excuse me, I'm going to take that potion of curing and go and switch to a dagger of venom and try and get close to him and stab him and poison him to death, having softened him up. Not nearly enough. It's berserk. Hooray, we survived that. That was a little bit dodgy, but hey. Right, let's wait for us to unberserk. Just like all our Vikings. Thank you, Zin, for putting all that money temptingly in my sightline where I can't do anything about it, and also I can't even reap the benefits of worshipping you. Thanks so much. No love, me. If I get a proper spot in the Pantheon, I am not talking to you. Run away, hide in a cupboard, stab everything. I do really feel that when you're playing Crawl, that constantly in your head you should have as a theme the music of Brave, 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 Brave Sir Robin. Yeah. He bravely turned his tail and fled. Brave, 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 brave Sir Robin. I don't think a chainmail's going to get me much, but we will at least try it. We don't have remove curse, so if it is cursed, this is probably going to be disastrous, but so that gives me 18, which is strictly not as good as my ring mail overall. We may come back to this later. Right, I'm not particularly short of arrows. Let's shoot the orc. I mean, orcs are generally pretty soft, but I do suffer from the traditional Lara ammo problem, which is you don't want to use all your best ammo, so you end up at the end of the game completely overburdened with grenades and sniper rifle and that kind of thing, and shotgun shells and everything, because you didn't want to waste your ammo. Okay, well that's cursed ring of teleportation. Great. Well, we'll just have to leap randomly around the scenery until I find a scroll of remove curse. Teleportitis is still also nowhere near as dangerous as in NetHack, so yay, random uselessness. Bye bye, random uselessness. Well, if you will, put yourself next to the stairs. Nah, it's goblins. They're not usually that scary. Even in this kind of numbers. Ah, yeah, one of them had dagger of electrocution. Maybe I should have done more research. Up. Right, let's just check that. Right, you are my primary target. Right. Now let's switch to short bow. Fire at Robin now. Okay, let's stab Robin. Right. The time-honoured technique of stair dancing. Right. We now have a not completely unrespectable AC and EV. I mean, not to say they couldn't be improved, but, you know. Let's burn one of my scrolls of magic mapping on a portal. Well, I might not get that anyway, but let's give it a go. Well, let's try not to use our bow too much here because there's lots of deep water. But let's see what we can get with those. I mean, I get you without arrows, honestly. I think I'd left my brain somewhere. Right, you're all boring rats. Not river rats, so I don't mind fighting you in water, even though that's tricky. Right, I will fire some arrows here where there's no danger of losing them to deep water. Good, teleportation is great. Right, let's also switch back to bow and arrow, especially since there are bullfrogs, which are actually quite scary. Solid ground. Well, that went pretty well, actually. So, now, what have we got? Oh, we got back a scroll of magic mapping. We have 3 of whatever those are. Scrolls of fog. And scroll of fear. Oh well. Right, well. Of course, no remove curse, because that would be useful. Or indeed identify. Because... oh, look, a staircase to the ecumenical temple, which is completely pointless because I can't worship any gods. I mean, religion in the cruel world is extremely transactional. Ooh, let's read that scroll of remove curse and remove that ring of teleportation. Ooh, scroll of identify. I do this strictly by whichever I have most of. Ooh, heal wounds, that's quite nice. I look pathetically at the altar of Okawaru, going, damn it. Surely demigods are allowed to worship at least one god. Right, aha. Let's... yeah, the idea is here that I will go with war an axe, because the best axe is the two-handed, and that will make a good weapon for when I actually let things get close enough to me. I'm not going to start training it yet, because training anything as a demigod is so excruciatingly painful that I'm not going to bother. I hate iguanas because they look almost exactly like all the other elves that you meet at this stage of the game, only they're much tougher. 100 arrows. Right, now I've got 100 arrows, I will start to have range anxiety every time I drop below 100 arrows. I know this from all the previous times I have played ranged characters, where I just feel like supremely anxious the whole time that I'm going to run out of ammo, even though I will end the game with hundreds of bits of ammo. Literally, actually hundreds. But the thing is, provided I can get enough ammo, you know, if I get the shoals, it'll be fine. You know, my best ever shoals run. Orc priest, panic at the disco. Right, let's go back to my ranged weapon. Let's fire at the orc priest. Let's run away from everything that wants to kill me and let them do it in single file. Which means I can stab them to death and not worry so much about my ammo. I always go that wrong. Not sure why I'm hitting the zombie with dagger of venom on the grounds that zombies can't be poisoned. Right, safest one. Let's buy some of those good things. Now put most of the rest on my menu for later, for shopping. Let's enchant my helmet. I'm pretty sure I'll be using it for a while. Well, a ring of wizardry is quite pointless. Let's take it off again. I'm never quite sure if it's like NetHack and wearing rings and amulets cost you energy, and I have never bothered to remember to look it up more than about 10 seconds. I just play like that just in case, it breaks my old NetHack habits. Though I will say Auto Explore is fantastic and I love it to bits. Excuse me, let's have a longbow face-off with that centaur, which I will win. There was another short bow, yes, good. Right, you are a frizzled lizard, so I can wander up to you and stab you gently at my leisure. Right. So, dungeon level 6, experience level 7. We are getting quite deep into the early game now. And the opposition is starting to toughen up. But incidentally, longbows are great. They're the best. All armour. Excuse me. New gloves. Excuse me, something appears to have happened to my connection. Press the inventory button 8 million times, because doing that at least is completely harmless. Hello?
Well, you still have connectivity to YouTube because it's echoing your stream back to me.
Jolly good.
So it's not our fault. No, not my fault.
I assume this is a temporary loss of packets. And it will sort itself out shortly. The window does have focus. I probably just inscribed something with I like 800 times, but that's fine. I might kill the stream at this point because I should probably start going to bed. On account of the fact that, they make me do things early in the morning. And try and hope that it sorts itself out. Good night, stream.
Good night, stream.